it's early for that. Yeah, it is a mouthful in there, but it's exploring quite a bit of different range in communities. But I think it's a good follow-up from the intelligence from the last one and trying to capture that. So it is a big intelligence focus, even though I avoided it in my title. Just an overview of the problem here. So I work with journalists a lot, and so I was looking at a lot of problems that should be solved in a either non-technical way or tech way, working a lot with the hardware. But a lot of it can come down to what the tools are available, how we should be building those tools in a good way. There are a lot of existing resources out there. I'll cover those a lot more here, but there's some links available on here. I think I threw Journo DAO in here. That's a Web3 side of it, but if anybody's from Journo DAO, it would be good to hear, but I don't know many people, or if that's survived much longer. And then I'll propose some kind of path forward for being able to do that with some use cases. So the problem, I took out the main subject on this one. So it's quite a range of it. I won't read it word for word, but journalists are affected, even crypto CEOs. A lot of it comes down to we're still affected or impacted and threatened on the physical plane. So no matter where your keys are at or any of that kind of part, we all kind of hit the same points where we have a physical presence, we're in physical locations. And spyware on mobile phones is one of the best ways of trying to track you or where you're at, and it's quite relevant for quite a few in the sphere. Summarizing it is this timeline, or the spectrum that I put on here. I actually just had to update it after the last crackdown on the Italian journalist over there with Citrox. So the meme here is what is the difference between a forensics tool and the offensive spyware tool that's developed by quite a lot of companies from a specific location, a specific country, but there isn't a lot, and you can abuse it, and so there isn't really a place to hide from this kind of stuff. I think Cellebrite used to be one of the best in the industry, but slipping down to the middle of the spectrum there, it was quite abused in some recent ones down in Serbia. So there are existing resources to kind of prevent that, but generally in the security field, you know that when you're a target, you're going to be, you're going to hit that phishing eventually, and you're going to release those keys in some point, and so there's not a lot you can do. That mentality of having encryption in place and being able to protect yourself by hiding won't work in this agentic world that we have in the future. There is a lot of prevention guides. It's a lot of wording. I don't know how many people read through a lot of it. Tactical Tech was one that it's an NGO here that has pushed out a lot of tooling. It's quite a lot of stuff. I mean, I even just had some agent scan through the whole pages and then check out to see if I could summarize it in a shorter way. But security in the box is one of the most conceptual side of how you can put the immediate things in place, and it's like a one-pager kind of stuff. Citizen Lab is one of the main cornerstones of the forensics tooling to do it for civil society, so they have some resources as well. I put Journo DAO as well there. I didn't see any resources with Journo DAO, but it would be a good platform to try to bring this into Web3 and show where some of this tooling is available. So some kind of Journo DAO concept. Detection, though, is the really key part of how you are able to tell it right from the top. How are you able to tell if your phone is burning hot for some reason or if you're doing something else? There are some tools for that. So Emergency VPN is a good one for civil society, and it's based out of the Stratosphere project in Prague. But they are essentially routing your networking through their trusted people and then informing you when something is showing hot. Mobile Verification Toolkit is another one developed by two guys here in Berlin with Amnesty International. Really good initiative, but it's very difficult for any random user to kind of run it, and you really need to know how you're running it. So a lot of people will go to a trusted person and try to run it there. So the main questions on that is, what options do civil society have for this kind of discovery of detection? What do you actually do when you do find one? Do you sit on it? Do you wait? What do you do with all the false positives? So maybe you're scanning your phone every 2 weeks to check. Maybe after a Berlin conference, you're going to go home and check your phone. But what happens if you have nothing? There is value in that. So there is some value in the fact that you didn't detect anything. How then, once you do find a true positive and you don't have any answers on the documentation, where do you go, and how do you kick off a forensics investigation? And that goes back to that first slide where I showed there's forensics tooling, and then you have spyware, commodity spyware makers. But sometimes you might go to a forensics investigation team like iVerify, but these cost money, and if you're not civil society, you don't have a lot of options out there. And then how not to alert the adversary, which is generally a government agency, when you're doing that. So if you're hollering out that you have spyware on your phone, how do you not inform authority on that? And back to Lefteur's talk yesterday on I don't have anything to hide. The fact that you have nothing to hide can also be a thing to hide, to say that. So I'll get to that with the honeypot part in the last part. But generally in security, we base it off of swarming concepts. So no misconception here on the swarm part, but swarming in general and building networks that are wide enough and distributed enough are one ways of beating these things. So this proposed solution, which I'll try to POC in the next month or so for that, is more with bringing together these three kind of communities that don't usually talk to each other. There's a threat intel community in the cybersecurity sphere with the development of the TLP. That's not shy away from the name Semaphore, which has the same etymology on that, and it's the similar principles in here. TLP is largely used in platforms for like malware analysis with MISP. Integrating this stuff with forensics tools or mobile verification toolkit is a really good one. So when you're running these scans on your phone, you're pulling off indicators, but somebody running it individually, and you're advised not to share those around because it's SMS text and a lot of private information about where you store that at. But a platform like MISP can store that kind of stuff, but you just need to have it really locked down and not shared in a way. This proposes going out and sharing these kind of things. I don't know if anybody knows the app Haven, but it was a Guardian project tool a bit ago, and that's kind of a forensics, a anti-forensics tool, so it kind of uses the sensors on your phone and wakes up if somebody's coming into a room while you leave your phone on. And then another one in civil society is Uni, and this is a censorship probe. Every time you scan, it also leaves a scan report that you can utilize as an indicator. So there's a lot of resources out there now that are using those sensors on your phone, using the networking that's available on your mobile phone. We just have no way of sharing them, but I saw some good path forward probably with Semaphore or this kind of idea of group validation with zkane to be able to validate that you're part of a group and then share with the level that you would predetermine protocol based. So as soon as you do run a scan and you have a place to store it, it goes to the right people that you need to do, or even distributes it without giving your identity away. So some of those use cases on there is this traditional indicator sharing with MISP or OpenCTI. There isn't any known shareable protocol right now utilized within that. There is a feed pub-sub mechanism there, but you know everybody in the group, or you can validate which groups you're sending stuff to back and forth. But to do this privately would be a nice step forward to being able to share the raw indicators without sharing private information or context behind it. A lot of these are like IP addresses, so they can have context or not, but they burn themselves out after 3 months, and so you don't really need to keep the IP address for that much longer. People in different locations, so between Central America and France as well, this was a true use case of how do you share these things between each other. A lot of it's large data sets, but maybe it's two journalists that really trust each other that need to get stuff across the ocean in a private way. JournoDAO could use some of this stuff, or a JournoDAO concept with Semaphore and building it in there. Last on that, so just to touch the point, I think this is my last slide on here. So this would be introducing a fifth principle on the DAC side with deterrence, and that should be the way forward for how we can fight stuff within the agentic future of security. But we need to have deterrence mechanisms, and you can do that in an agentic way. On the incident response side, you have the other 5 Ds, and so focusing on delaying and distracting any adversary in your network or on your phone can make things close out with that easy. But honeypots and honey traps, I have Pooh here. I just got off the HoneyNet project conference in Prague, and a lot of really good solutions out there, but there's not a lot of set for your mobile device. So mobile devices aren't usually agentic, or they're bots, so it's really hard to copy that behavior over as a digital twin kind of stuff. But there are strength in numbers with Snowflake, and then it's really advisable to throw canary tokens out there. So any of these kind of concepts in active defense can be really utilizable, and even if there is no true positive indicator, it's still something worth reporting, and having that distributable in a way can really build a deterrence network to be able to fight some of the future threats we have. And last, I've given a handout to Microsoft here, is that they did come up with a click of the button kind of honeypotting system that would report on these kind of things without a user even seeing that. So they did get the front end of that side, but distributing that and being able to go around is the next step forward to doing that on a distributed, decentralized network. And these are some of my next steps, but that's my last slide there. So you can reach me on the email.